determining its domain and range, since it is actually divided into pieces, we will unite the values of x and y, meaning looking through our graph horizontally when we find the domain and vertically when we find the range. Let's discuss first how we get the domain. All right. So how do we do the domain of this function? So let's go first and find out how these pieces go. Now this piece horizontally starts from -5, okay, because the x here is -5, and it includes -5 because there's a dot here, okay, because we're only looking at this piece. We're not looking at the other two pieces here first. So it starts with -5, okay, and it goes to infinity. So that would be from -5. Sometimes they use it something like this, but it doesn't matter actually. -5 going to negative infinity. Now remember, in the infinity side, it's always parentheses, but in the number side, it depends. If it is a dot, it's a bracket, and if it's a whole, it's a parenthesis. And then we go now to the next piece, union. All right, and as you can see, there's a hole at -5 here and a hole at +1. So the x values in this graph, those x values that will hit this graph, range from -5 to -1, but that does not include both -5 and +1. So therefore, we will use parentheses, so -5 to +1. Now, we will go to the next piece, which is the last piece of our domain. And as you can see, this piece starts with +1 horizontally and goes to positive infinity, and it includes +1. So, therefore, it will be from 1 to positive infinity. And that's the domain of the function. Okay? Now, you can also say that this function has a domain of all real numbers, since it includes everything from left to right. And sometimes options will give you this information as an answer to the problem. Now, we will go to the range. Okay, the range is when you look at your graph vertically and what are the values of y involved. Okay, so we will start with this first. Okay, but because as you can see, I'd like to suggest that, but as you can see, if you're going to look at your graph, your y value starts from here, and then it includes both of them. So let's go ahead and do first the bottom part. So you see here, the y value that is involved in here is only a single value, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's -7. Nothing else but -7 in this graph. So we would say the first piece includes only the y values at -7. Okay? Now, the second piece, which is here, okay, start with the downside, involves only -6 in this area. So, therefore, we will have a union of -6. And the third piece starts from -4, but it does not include -4. So, I'm going to make use of a parenthesis for -4, but I will use a bracket here because this includes the value, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would be from -4 to +5, excluding -4. Okay, so that's how you read domain and range. Let's have another example so that it would be more clear. All right, let's use this graph. Okay, so when you are looking at the domain, all right, the domain seems to be finite or infinite if it goes to the left, and it includes 3 pieces, all right? So from this piece first, from the left side, going to the negative infinity, starting with the domain of the function. All right? And it starts with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Negative 6, and it doesn't include it. This is a whole. All right? So therefore, I'm going to make use of negative 6 in parentheses. And then we will go to the next piece, and it involves negative 6 to positive 2. And there's a hole in here, although it doesn't look like, but it's supposed to be a hole here and a dot here. So negatives, of course, it's closed here, it's open here, it's gonna close here. It's open here, it's gonna close there. So that will be negative 6 to positive 2. So you're looking at the graph horizontally. So that's negative 6 union negative 6 using a bracket but a parenthesis at positive 2. Now we will proceed with the last piece, which includes positive 2 and a dot here. So that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that will be from positive 2 to positive 6 using brackets. So union positive 2 to positive 6. So this involves the domain of our function. Now we will go to the range. Okay, so remember, range is when you're looking at your graph vertically starting at the bottom piece. So at the bottom piece, there's a dot here and there's a hole here starting with this number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's negative 6 since it's going downside, and I'm going to make use of a bracket. Okay? And it ends with negative 2 and there's a hole, so I'm going to make use of a parenthesis union. Now, this piece is separated from this piece, so we need to find the domain, the range here, starting with 0, and there's a dot here, ending with 2. So union 0 to 2. We're looking at the vertical side, okay? 0 to positive 2. And the last piece involves only 1, 2, 3, nothing else but 3. So therefore, we will, even if it's a hole here, okay, let's say it's a hole here at 3, but 3 here is dotted. So therefore, the range here would still be 3. So we will use 3, union, positive 3. So that's how you look at it. Horizontally, piece by piece, from left to right, you get the domain. If you say range, look at it vertically from the bottom side up to the top side. Use the values of y, and make sure that when it's dotted, use a bracket. When it's hold, use a parenthesis, and all infinities are using parentheses.